Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Brev. Welcome to another MLB The Show 22 video. Today, I'm going to be doing a deep dive analysis on the new PCI Anchor feature this year and giving my best tips and advice on how to use it most effectively. This can definitely be a game changer in ranked seasons online, especially on the higher difficulties. I've been loving this feature a lot. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more MLB The Show 22 content, and let's dive right into how to use the PCI Anchor most effectively. So for starters, just a basic overview of what the PCI Anchor is. It's basically a feature that allows you to preset your PCI to a certain area of the strike zone based on the 9 circles that are part of the grid. You can see they don't extend all the way to the corners, and the way to activate this is to hold the left stick down and to drag to whichever part of the grid that you want to anchor your PCI at, like this. I do want to toss a couple disclaimers at the beginning of this video. First of all, anything with the PCI has always been super subjective. It's a lot of personal feel, and if you find something that works for you, I would definitely recommend sticking with it. Because it is so subjective, I'm actually going to give 4 different options that I think are all really good online for using the Anchor. And if you guys happen to find something that works for you that's not one of the 4 things that I suggest, I would love to hear them down in the comment section below. Secondly, I want to talk about the feature of the PCI Anchor that I think is most important, and it's not what you think on the surface. Most people look at the PCI Anchor as an opportunity to start and sit in a certain position pre-pitch. For example, if I was anticipating a fastball inside, I could anchor inside to kind of sit on it. But the best feature of the PCI Anchor is actually the opposite. The best feature is that it actually defaults to a different part of the strike zone when you let go of it. So for example, I can sit anywhere I want pre-pitch, and then I can change my anchor to default to up if I anchor up when I let go of the stick. This allows you to have a lot more range in when you let go of the stick by default and move it around the strike zone. So because of this premise, all of the PCI anchors I'm going to be suggesting are based on the fact that they help you in areas when you actually let go of the stick, not when you're sitting on a pitch beforehand. That being said, let's dive into the 4 PCI anchors that I think are the best. And Chapman's going to be throwing these pitches in hot while I talk, so just keep that in mind. We'll try to take some hacks as well. The first PCI anchor option is actually to not use it at all. You could just sit at middle and, hit like you have in previous years. Keep in mind, if you do not use the PCI Anchor, the PCI range as far as reaching outside of the strike zone is a lot farther this year, so you may end up overextending or overshooting with your PCI pretty often. This can be true with any preset PCI that you've used in past years, but in general, you definitely do not have to use the anchor, so obviously just keeping it middle is definitely an option, and that gives you equal amount of coverage throughout the strike zone to try to take some hacks all over the place. This is personally not my favorite by any means. Ever since I've been playing MLB The Show, I really like presetting my PCI at least somewhere in the strike zone, but I do know a lot of people that like to just keep it in the middle and react, so that is definitely still an option for you. And I should mention that these first 2 that I'm talking about are my least favorite, and the last 2 are my most favorite. The second PCI anchor that I find really effective is actually going to be middle up, and this is really good for people who really struggle with dropping their PCI significantly. So starting your PCI up with an anchor will give you a longer amount of time when you drop your PCI, so hopefully you won't get under the ball as much. If you want to just ignore Chapman's pitches coming in, I'll try to show you what I mean with the PCI movement. So by default, when you leave it middle up, it's going to stay middle up. So if you have a really hard time dropping under balls with the PCI, let's say you're sitting inside, when you let go, it's actually going to go up middle instead of middle. So that means when you let go and then drop, you have a larger amount of space to cover, which will hopefully help you not get under the ball as much. So we'll set Chapman to only throw low off speed, and I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. So we anchor middle up, and when we see the off speed coming in low and we slam our PCI downwards, it actually gives us more ground to cover, which will hopefully help us get more on top of the ball, or at least not underneath it as far. Again, this is great for people who drop their PCI all the time. I think middle up is a pretty good standard just PCI placement in general, and if you really struggle slamming your PCI underneath the ball, I would definitely give this a shot. Another upside to starting your PCI middle high is that you have less ground to cover for high pitches as well, so this anchor kind of helps you cover high pitches and low pitches at the same time. At least with low pitches, you won't be dropping as far underneath them when they come in. Alright, those first 2 were quick, but I want to spend a little bit more time on the last 2 because I think they are the 2 most effective, and I think you guys are going to enjoy using these a lot. So the first one I'm going to be calling the artificial middle PCI anchor. So what this means is we're going to anchor somewhere that we struggle to get to quickly. So typically this is going to be middle up and in, inside, or maybe even low and in. Any of these 4 that you're seeing on screen right here would be a good anchor for this strategy. So for starters, for this video, we're going to anchor up and in, and then we're going to artificially move our PCI back to the middle. So what this looks like is we're going to anchor up and in, and we're going to keep our PCI artificially middle, and what this means is that if the pitch comes up or inside, we have a little bit of a speed boost with our PCI to get there quicker. You can see how fast I snap to that inside fastball. This can definitely be weird at first because you're going to have your PCI in the middle of the strike zone, but you aren't going to actually have your joystick in the middle of its area. But I find this incredibly effective because once again, we're using the PCI anchor not for where we start, but where we finish. By anchoring it somewhere like up and in, we can give ourselves a lot faster reaction time to pitches up and in while still allowing for our PCI to sit middle and have full coverage of the plate. You can absolutely modify this throughout the game too based on your opponent's tendencies. If you think they're going to try to get a double play, you can instead anchor down and in and then keep your PCI middle. Realistically, you could put the anchor anywhere you want, but I think inside and up are the best choices because they're the types of pitches that you're going to have the least amount of time to react to. So once again, with the artificial middle anchor, we're going to be looking to anchor somewhere inside or up, and then we're going to manually place our PCI back to the middle of the strike zone and then react from there. That way, if we do end up in a situation where we're facing like Chapman left on left and they decide to go up and in with a fastball, if we're anchoring up and in but then keeping our PCI artificially in the middle of the zone, it allows us to react to the pitch much faster because when we let go of the joystick as a reaction, the PCI is automatically going to move itself more up and in than it would have if we were not anchoring. So we set our anchor up and in, we artificially place the PCI back in the middle of the zone, and then when Chapman goes up and in with a fastball, it's a lot easier for us to react and get the PCI there in time to take a good swing at it. So for example, if we're facing Chapman and I think they want to get a double play, I can instead anchor down and in, and then if they try to throw me a two-seamer down and in, I can better react to that pitch as well. So we anchor down and in, we set our PCI back middle, and then we're able to get underneath that two-seamer and turn on it very quickly. Again, we're anchoring down and in here, expecting something low in the zone, and then we are able to drop down much more easily than if we weren't anchoring. You can see I'm even still too early on some of these swings. And in general, we're just much more able to react to pitches in that area by default. I know you guys can't really see what I'm doing with the joysticks or the controller in general, but I'm telling you guys to just try this out. The anchoring inside and or up really helps with the plate coverage with those pitches. You can seriously react so much faster because you're getting such a boost from the PCI being defaulted inside like that. It's so much easier to artificially keep my PCI in the middle of the zone and then let the anchor do all the work and drag the PCI inside for me once I start to see that pitch coming inside. It's really good. I like it a ton, and I personally have been bouncing back and forth between this anchor type and the one that I'll be going over after this. But in general, if you're really unsure of what to do with the anchor or you really need a starting point of what to try, this would be my best recommendation. One more time as a summary: anchor somewhere up or inside or a combination of both, and then artificially put your PCI back to the middle of the zone, and that will let you better react to pitches inside and or up much quicker, and that will allow you to also still have the same amount of plate coverage as if your PCI was in fact down the middle the whole time. Alright, and then the fourth way to use the PCI anchor, this is actually what I've been doing personally online most of the time, and I think it's my best recommendation as of right now, although it's really close with the one I just went over. Obviously, if you don't really have a spot where you like to pre-place your PCI, then the third option that I just went over is actually probably better for you because it allows you to keep your PCI middle and then anchor elsewhere. But for people who like to pre-place their PCI in a certain area of the zone like I do, I think this is much more effective, and like I said, this is what's been crushing for me on Legend Online. The basis of this PCI anchor is actually very simple. You're essentially just going to want to anchor directly opposite of wherever you start your PCI pre-pitch. And this is really what's most effective about the anchor, right? You can place your PCI pre-pitch wherever you want, and you have time to do so, but the anchor allows you to kind of compensate for the plate coverage that you're losing by anchoring completely opposite of where you start. So for example, if you really like to start your PCI middle up pre-pitch, you might be inclined to anchor middle up, but my best recommendation would be instead to anchor middle down. This is because when you pre-place your PCI middle up, you are essentially losing plate coverage in the lower part of the zone because you're going to have a farther distance to go when you actually try to track those pitches low. But what happens when you anchor directly opposite of where you start your PCI, it actually allows you to get down to those pitches quicker and allows you to kind of get a speed boost on your PCI to areas of the strike zone that you would normally have a tougher time covering because you are overcompensating to other parts of the strike zone. So once again, I know some people like to start their PCI up and in, so then my best recommendation for this strategy would be to anchor low and away. That way you can start your PCI up and in, which is where it's comfortable for you. You can still turn on that stuff up and inside, and then if they do end up throwing off speed low and away from you, your PCI is going to naturally drag more to that spot and allow you to react a lot better. In general, for me, if you guys watch my content, you know I love to start my PCI middle in, so my preferred anchor online right now is actually middle out for this reason. So because I like to preset my PCI middle inside, it helps me turn on sinkers and stuff inside, especially in left on left situations, which can be really tough. By anchoring directly opposite of that, if they throw it away from where I'm presetting my PCI, I have a lot more plate coverage because the PCI is going to naturally drag to that opposite part of the strike zone. So if I'm sitting middle in and Chapman throws me off speed away, I'm much easier able to get out there with my PCI and have good timing on it. Like I said, this is the best anchor for me. This is what I've been doing personally online in ranked seasons on legend difficulty, and I think in general this one or the one I went over just before this are the best anchors in the game right now, and they're going to improve your hitting so much if you just give them a try. So just to wrap up the video before we go ahead and end it, I want to briefly summarize all 4 of the anchors that I went over that I think are the most effective way to use this. I promise you guys, if you put some of this stuff in practice, you're going to see massive improvements in your PCI placement. The first strategy would be to anchor middle or just not use the anchor at all. This is good for people who generally don't like to preset their PCI anywhere. You will have to get used to the new PCI sensitivity though to not overshoot to certain corners of the strike zone. The second option is to start your PCI middle up, which will help prevent you from dropping way underneath off speed low if you are known to be jamming your PCI way low. A lot of people have problems jamming their PCI underneath pitches, so if you are one of those people, then definitely try the middle up anchor. And then my 2 favorite anchor strategies, firstly the artificial middle strategy, which is where you anchor up or inside or a combination of both, and then you artificially move your PCI back to the middle of the strike zone, which allows you to reach up and in or inside a lot quicker while still maintaining your PCI in a neutral position. This is a great strategy for people who want to keep their PCI in a neutral position but also want to have a little bit of a boost on pitches that they struggle to react to. And this is amazing for people who do not want to preset their PCI anywhere in the strike zone. And then fourthly, my favorite PCI anchor is just directly opposite of wherever you sit pre-pitch. So for me, I start middle in, so I anchor middle outside every time. And obviously this is best for people who really like to sit in the same spot pre-pitch every single pitch. So that's gonna do it for the video. I hope it was extremely helpful for you guys. Please go into practice mode at least and try some of this stuff out. I promise it'll help you. And remember, like I said, this stuff with the PCI is so subjective, so let me know if it worked or if you have any other additional information you'd like to drop in the comment section below. I hope to see all your averages rise after watching this video. I really love the PCI anchor as a feature. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.